So here we are again. Hi, Shimi.
Hello, hello.
We kind of lost count ourselves to which number of episode this is. So I guess we're doing a good thing. Um, we were thinking like, what can we discuss today? And the marketing team said, don't do something about AI. But I think, the only thing we can discuss is AI, right? I want to refer to one of the things you mentioned that you discussed with a lot of our engineers in a one-on-one, where AI is changing their work and how they look at that.
Yeah. First of all, I don't think marketing they should be happy we're doing this, so they don't have a say about the topics we do. So yeah, I think I had several interesting conversations. Obviously, we do a lot of one-on-ones at Made with Love, and I think one of the conversations I had with one of our engineers or more senior engineers is that AI is actually changing the nature of the job, right? So while you know when you study to become a developer, you know ins and outs. It's sort of like you become an artisan, right? It's there's craftsmanship to it. Well, the conversation I had with this engineer, and it applies to other engineers as well, is that more and more you are moving towards not writing the code yourself anymore, but you are moving towards the prompting and reviewing. Working with LLMs, working with Cloud Codes, working with anti-gravity, these kind of tools. And it's interesting for two reasons. First of all, it's you still like doing this as an engineer, right? Because you've been doing it this way
For me,
a long
it
time.
feels a
So
bit like the move that some managers make into engineering management, where basically they move up to the management ladder, and then at one point in time they realize they're not programming anymore, and then they have this existential crisis where they have to think like, do I want to be a manager or do I want to be a programmer? We see that in our team quite often, that people have to kind of take a ride there. I guess it's similar, right?
yeah, it's a bit instead that the people you manage then is more like the AI, the agents that you're managing. So I
They
think
don't
that's
complain, right? So it's a nice,
well, I don't know if you saw the Reddit like community they've been making with the cloud bots,
yeah, yeah.
Vault bots. I don't know what
Open
the name
cloud,
is.
right?
Yeah,
Open
Open
cloud.
Cloud. Sorry, there's already three names. So I think that's one aspect, and I think that will apply for other jobs as well. We're making about development, but it will apply for maybe any administrative job, marketing
Yeah, of
jobs.
course.
You will just be working with LLMs, and it will maybe have a more radical change than we expect. So I guess time will tell, but it's something that we're already dealing with today. And the second part is, I think on our blog, you will find a post about push versus pull developers. And this was another thing that we discussed is, um, I don't know if you remember, but push developers are more like the developers that you have to push, as in they're less proactive, they're good at executing a task, but they're not going to find the extra work, etc. Pull developers are the opposite, so it's a different connotation. It's very similar to junior and senior, but we kind of differentiate between it. And there, the question is, yeah, these push developers, if you think about it, they act very much like agents as well, where you just say, okay, you need to do this. This is the context you're giving. You give a lot of hand holding. And that's also interesting because that's maybe the bar. Those are maybe the developers that will have a harder time in the future if they don't upskill, if they don't incorporate AI in their work. So those were the two aspects. And it's interesting. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, the last thing ties in a bit with what I wrote in, I think almost a year ago, about the fact that AI is taking away the jobs of a junior developer. And of course, the question for me still is today, like, how are we going to fit that gap? It's not answered to me. Um, I think one of the things is, if you compare it to other things we see in life, is, I think with fashion, for example, you used to have someone tailoring your clothes very nicely and making sure they were a good fit. And when there was a problem with, you would go to them again, and they would fix your clothes right. But today, I think when you look at code, it's more of becoming a disposable, like fast fashion as well, where we basically say, it's not working, throw it away. I don't need it anymore, throw it away. And the question is that a good thing? Like with fashion, I get it consumes lots of energy. It takes away all the creativity because everyone is wearing the same thing, right? There is lots of hype, things going in and out very fast. I think as a fashion watcher, you have to, as an AI watcher, you have to be watching everywhere because it's impossible to follow what's going on. So I look at it like that. Like, there is this fast fashion that's happening, but then the question is there also going to be a place for the tailor-made suits and the very high class stuff. And that I don't know. I think probably it's about the energy consumption and the ethics around that. That will probably at one point decide like if we've gone too far or not.
I wish I could give you an answer, but I think at this time I don't know either, and time will tell. Um,
And while we're on the topic of AI, right? Of course, I think even today, OpenAI announced that they were going to make OpenAI Codex, or they launched it, a Mac application natively. I think what's funny about AI, and there was of course proper reasons for it, is that we're going back to desktop applications. While in the past decade, maybe 2 decades, we've seen the move to web applications, to progressive web applications, mobile, of course, as well. But now we're actually going back from that. Every vendor is coming out with a native application. The reason, of course, is because they need system access, right? But that's for me still only a temporary thing because, for example, I don't use a lot on my system. I mean, we use Google Workspace. All my files are in there. The only files
yeah,
I have locally are my Git repos, which of course are also on GitHub. Everything I do is in the browser. So why would it still need a local access? And I think that's interesting to see that they are taking one step back, in my opinion. Why aren't they doing that, for example, on Google Drive immediately? That I don't really understand.
I guess the MCPs aren't strong enough yet. Like if they can't connect like that, so I think with the OpenBot, for example, it takes over your, it runs on your desktop and it can do basically everything you do on your computer. And I guess that's the power of it. It connects everything,
But if
right?
the only thing I do on my computer is in the browser,
Fair
almost.
enough. Maybe you're not their target audience, Andreas.
Yeah, so people organizing photos and stuff like that. I mean, I see the
Yeah.
power, and I think we discussed it last week or 2 weeks ago as well with the computer use models I've been playing with, and it's extremely powerful. But my question is like, what? I mean, I understand why, but it's like a temporary thing. This whole desktop
Yeah.
setup
So you
that
think
we're
it will
going
go
through.
back to the cloud or to the
It should,
well?
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy that you have to buy a Mac Mini to run your thing. I was joking you. I was sending you this message earlier today. We need to buy like a physical server in the office because we need to start running OpenCloud and whatever other agents locally because the resource.
Yeah.
And we rent an office. We have a good fiber line here. We don't pay for energy, so why don't put something in the office that's you only pay the cost of the machine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
It's
running OpenCloud on a Mac Mini here in the office now. It works pretty well.
don't tell them, right? I think this is where we end the episode. Andreas, thanks a lot and see you next time.
Thanks. See you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.